the place. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Stefan. We're having a good start, haven't we? And thank you for those of you dancing. In fact, I saw some pretty snappy dancing down there in the aisle. Welcome, everyone. I'm Reverend Deborah Gay. It's my pleasure to be the host of the service today. And we have a dear friend and alumni of CSL to be with us today who has fans. Reverend Liz Meranti is here. And so I'll give you the scoop on Liz a little bit later in the service for those of you who don't know. And we may hear a few things that those of you that have known her for many years, welcoming Liz back. So I just want to welcome any of you who are new to CSL. And if you'd like to find more out about us, these blue bags are out on the tables in the lobby. Feel free to pick one up. And inside of it is something called a connection card. And if you feel like you want to connect more deeply with us, fill this out and put it in a basket or give it to someone with a name tag, particularly your email address, because midweek we send out a spiritual practice so that we can connect with each other as a community virtually, even when we're not in physical contact with each other. So it's a way just to keep that juice flowing. And speaking of all of these wonderful new technology tools, if you have a smartphone and you want to take a picture of Stefan while she's performing or Reverend Liz and post it and just show the world how much fun it is to come to a spiritual community on Sundays. Share the good that we are. And finally, one of the things we do is every person gets honored at least once a year here at CSL through your birthday. So if you had a birthday last week or this weekend, stand, and we will give you a little gift. Happy birthday. Yay. It's fun to see who's having birthdays, isn't it? We see all those July babies this month. So we begin our service now with an opening prayer. And we always do the prayers with music. So I invite our musicians to come up. I feel like music helps bypass sometimes the mental chatter in our head, the voices, and helps us to calm and center in. And so that's what we'll do now. We'll use music to open up to that inner world, and then Reverend Bob Calkins will lead us in prayer.
Continuing in prayer, I invite you to quiet the mind by just releasing any thoughts of what's going on or what you're planning later. And just ease into that quiet space. The space where we allow a closer contact with the source. Where inspiration, the feeling of love and peace all can enter in more fully to your awareness. So let's take the next few moments to be in that quiet. And coming back, I invite you to practice this frequently during the week. It allows that presence to return to our awareness from time to time. And so it is.
It is my joy to introduce more about Reverend Liz Meranti for those of you who may not have met her yet. Just a lovely person. She was on staff here and attended here. Well, she began like many of us. She began as a congregant, began attending in 1990. She became a practitioner in 1993 and a minister then in 1999. And ordained in 2003. So during that period, she worked on staff at a variety of things. And she taught our beginning class, which was the foundations class. And many of the things that we now see around us or are coming back as far as community development were part of Reverend Liz's ministry here. Things like the small groups, the newcomers program that we're just going to be starting now is called Pathfinders. So we're developing a mentor program of people who have been here at CSL for a while to mentor people who are brand new. And that was one of the ideas from when Liz was here. She was in charge of Wednesday services, like we have today, and was the co-camp director of CBEC. So good traditions all. But her ministry was calling her forward. So she left us in 2006 and did some interesting things in the world. Many of us don't know that we have centers, spiritual living centers, in Europe, in Ukraine, and there is a hunger for what we have, for the teachings, for the technology of how to improve your life, how to use these kinds of understandings of how the world works to make huge shifting in your life. And so Reverend Liz went to the Ukraine for 3 months to teach science of mind principles there, and then became a senior minister at the church in Monterey, California. So was their senior minister for 5 years. And then in 2013, past life in 1913, no. She didn't retire. What she uses is the word rewiring. So she's in a rewiring process, and I love that concept for many of us who are going into the next phase of whatever our life is about. We can now call it rewiring. And let me just end with this saying, which she uses as the theme to her ministry: where love is present, the path to truth is joyous. So let's open our hearts and welcome Reverend Liz back with such joy to see her again. Reverend Liz.
Thank you. Oh, stop. Hi, you guys. Hi, 11 a.m. peeps. I kind of have to tell you, okay, some of you were here at 8:30, but you won't tell, or 8:30. See, I'm still 8:30. 9 a.m. service. I always felt like the 11 a.m. were my peeps, because you, like me, are just kind of, not that I love you any better, really. It's just I feel more one of you. And I really felt more one of you when I arrived at my hotel room last night after spending the 4th of July with my family, because my dad does a fireworks show. My 89-year-old, like mortar shells. We're talking boom, 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 the big thing, which he's done 4 years. And when I finished that and we got to our hotel room at 1 a.m. last night, really thinking of you 11 a.m. peeps. But I had to be here for the 9 a.m. peeps too, and I was just really grateful that it wasn't 8:30 a.m. peeps. So life is good. So yeah, this is so fun. I've been waiting to be on this stage since the new sanctuary opened. So this is very fun for me. It is wonderful to be back. As Reverend Deborah said, I started attending the center in 1990. It was, to be precise, it was Father's Day in 1990, and every year on Father's Day, I think about that first day coming here and how my life changed, and it's been 25 years. And I know some of you I know and love, it's been longer, but who remembers the first day they came and how life changed? And So, the first thing that we do as guest speakers is kind of acknowledge the minister and community. And I'm so grateful for this community. And, it goes without saying that, of course, you have a powerhouse. She's spoken in hushed tones at other centers for spiritual living. But here's the thing I got to tell you, and I did tell the early service this, so I got to tell you. Going away gives you a lot of perspective. Anybody grow up with a mother? And have your mother occasionally do things. I mean, first of all, everything your mother did, you had to kind of say, yeah, I'm going to do it different. No matter what she did, no matter how wonderful your mother was. And then there were times when you absolutely would say, well, when I have kids, I'm not going to do it that way, or I'm not going to be that way. Well, that extends to some other things. And so when I went down and had my pulpit in Monterey, things would come out of my mouth, and I'd go, just like your mom comes out of your mouth. There came Reverend Kathy Ann. But probably, so that was pretty hilarious. But probably more than that, especially for those of you who've been around for a long time, things that I, from my little elevated perspective, might have judged a little bit. Why is she doing it that way? Why is this happening? Now I understand. Truly, I have so much more respect having gone out and done the senior minister gig for just 5 years. And she's done it for what? 30 now? What'd you guys just celebrate? 25 or 30? 25. I mean, senior minister gigs not for sissies, and I only had 40 people. So that's that part of acknowledgement. So just so you know, there's always more than you know what's going on. And the second thing is just to acknowledge all of you and this community that all of us have been creating for these many years. I occasionally watch the live streaming, so I saw the Glee thing, and I was just like, oh, that is so cool. I so would have wanted to be there doing that. It was just awesome. And, that there's just so many fun things that this community does, and that's one part, because I like the fun. But I also talked to a longtime friend of mine, and she was telling me about some friendships, some of her deepest friendships that I didn't even realize she still had that were from, foundations class 15 years ago, and Sanghas, and what's coming back as connection circles, the empowerment groups and small groups. I remember that there was a group of women who had this long-time empowerment group. They were kind of supposed to change over, but some people said, no, this is our group, and we're sticking to it. It was before we had Sanghas, so they just made their own Sangha before we kind of knew about what to do with Sanghas. But this one group of women, they bought shoes together. They supported one through the loss of her mom. They all went to the memorial service. There were these wonderful, tight bonds that are the fabric. That is what has made CSLseattle endure. Yes, you have this fabulous minister, and there's nobody like her. But the community, the support for community that's been created, and what you all create through your deep friendships here, and your prayers for each other, and your love of each other, the service you do together, it's phenomenal. It's what makes this place. And you know that without the dear ones you have here, this place would not quite be as special. So I acknowledge, and I'm so grateful to be here with you. Many of you who have done lots of good journeys with me. I was thinking this morning when Deborah introduced me, I was like, and there's some of you who know where the bodies are buried. It was like, and just one little aside, forgive me, those of you who don't know me or haven't known me for very long. Tomorrow, I'm driving up with my husband and an eight-month-old dog to go see Reverend Janet Garvey Stangvik and I have a plastic snake in my suitcase. Rest of you didn't hear that. You know nothing. You know nothing. You know nothing. You know nothing. Seebeck. All right, so we'll move on to the talk now, shall we? So I was so hysterical when I found out what the theme was, that the theme for this month is create. And fairly similarly to another time I spoke here after I was no longer on staff, it was a theme that totally pushed my buttons. I was like, really? Really? Create? That's the theme I have? That's the theme I have? I know this isn't true for all of you, but for some of you, I think you're like me, and as soon as you hear the term create, you think of visual art, and you think, oh, no, no, no. And I feel like everybody in my life has become this fabulous visual artist. This woman I went to college with, she's having art shows at different cities around the country. Kathy Ann is, my God, the thing, she dabbled in watercolor when I first knew her. Now she's turning out these like icons. She could sell those in Ukraine. I mean, they're wonderful, beautiful things that she does in her copious free time with her horses and teaching and other. It just blows me away, and I start feeling like create. That would not be me. And then this high school friend of mine that I've recently connected with, we're good buds, she's an artist. She's got a studio. She's got painting all over. It's like, oh man, everybody's an artist but me, and now I have to talk about creating. I'm so embarrassed. Now, I do have one claim to fame in the creativity thing. Where'd y'all go? Many years ago, we were in a pilot program, Leadership from Within, and we were divided into small groups, and we had to write a song. Do you remember this, Joe? Yeah, I don't blame you. He blacked it out. And so for some reason, I got this idea that the song we were going to do was going to be to the tune of Windmills of Your Mind. And anybody who knows this song know it's a very complicated. I mean, and I was glad I had Jal there because he knew all the notes. Because if you're going to rewrite a song, you need to have all those words scanned. That was fabulous, and it ended. That is leadership from within. So that was like I felt very creative about that. But it kind of pales to these wonderful artistic endeavors that we see people make. So I realized the reason that, of course, I needed to speak was for myself, like most of these talks usually are, but also for those of us who kind of have that same reaction. I'm not creative. I always tried to go away when we did arts and crafts. To realize that art, creating is not about making a masterpiece for the wall, or a masterpiece on the page, or a masterpiece for the airwaves. I was trying to figure out earlier how to talk about the song thing. Oscar Wilde, who must have been writing to a friend, said, "Life has been your art. You have set yourself to music. Your days are your sonnets." Now, he went the musical direction. But that's where we are here to be artists, not to have something up on a wall or in a book, but to be the artists of our lives, the very artists of our lives. And that's something for each of us, not for one of us or those who are artistically inclined. Because create, I realized a real fallacy in my thinking, that I was thinking create meant like doing that beautiful piece of something. When really, create just means to bring into existence. Create just means to bring into existence. And so with this wonderful Signs of Mind and Spirit teaching, we learn the technology, the art and science of being that artist of our very lives. Now, for most of you, this isn't new. This isn't a new idea, but it's summertime and sometimes we go to sleep. We go to sleep to the unlimited nature of who we are. We go asleep to this wonderful responsibility that we have as expressions of the divine on this planet. Mary Manning Morrissey, known to lots of you as this great leader in our New Thought movement, says something that I love. She says, are you creating a new day? Are you creating the same day 365 times? We get in a rut and we forget. So this talk is one of those reminders of something you've already known, you've learned here, and you probably already knew it before you came here. And that is that we create our lives. Every thought, every choice we make, thought by thought, choice by choice, we create our lives. How do we know we can do this? Because we know, we teach, maybe we came here to learn it, maybe we've always known it, that we are expressions of the divine. We are expressions of the divine. Right where each of us is, the divine is. And I read something recently in Ernest Holmes. I love, I hope you all are like I do, that Science of Mind textbook is such a good value because there's always new stuff in there. Such a good value. And his other books are too. Different things always jump out. How many, my dear friend Reverend CSLseattle and I were talking about how many different highlighters and colors. Oh, look at that, the whole page. But I read something that I thought he had a disagreement with Joel Goldsmith once. But I found Ernest Holmes actually saying not part of God is right where each of us is, but all of God is right where each of us is. All of God is right where each of us is. And though we might think that the universal deal of God is love, when we look at any religion or pre-religious thing, the tales of the divine are always creation myths. So really, the first law of the divine is that it is creative. It is a creator. There's like no question. Whatever you call it, however it did it in 30 days, in 2 weeks, with a tortoise shell, with two gods flying around the world. That's the Japanese one. That God is creator. So if we are that expression, we are creators. I think Kathy Ann even quoted this a few weeks ago, and I didn't copy, I just refound it, okay? Everything in nature is endowed with creative urge, an irresistible impulse. Everything in nature, so that would kind of include kind of all of us. And it is up to us, that's always the kicker about Science of Mind, isn't it? It's up to us to recognize, accept, and use the creative nature of our mind. To recognize, accept, and use the creative nature of our mind. Which doesn't mean we're all supposed to create pretty pictures and we're doing it wrong if we're not. Or create fabulous songs. It means that we are supposed to bring into existence that which is ours to bring into existence. I can talk to you about quantum physics for about 30 seconds, because that's all that I have been able to retain or feel like I could speak about with any confidence. I've always admired that about Kathy Ann. She can go on and on. String theory. Yeah, not me. But what I understand that I love is that there truly is, as Deepak Chopra says, the field of all possibilities that is existing pre-form, just waiting for our thought, our choice, our intention to call it into being, to create it. You know, whether it is, oh man, this is going to be a blanky day, or what can I create today? How can I be more love in the world today? How can I be more beauty in the world today? How can I be more wisdom at work today? Thought by thought, choice by choice. Those are our paintbrushes to create those lives we want to have. And, you know, sometimes it can look messy. Jackson Pollock is considered an artist too. Or is that that's the splat guy, right? Yeah, art history here. Now, so there is no limit, but it is our job. And I love, as you know, I think this create theme has kind of been happening many, many summers. Is it just me? I seem to remember Art of Living, which actually one of Ernest Holmes' books, this thing called Life. Many of us have this thing called life. It's now called The Art of Life. So that is, yeah, you look for, well, I can't find this thing called life anymore. Well, they changed the title on us, so just that metaphor is part and parcel of this teaching, not to make us feel not enough, but to remind us once again how powerful we truly are, how wonderful we truly are, how magnificent we truly are. One of my favorite things about the coming together of the formerly two factions of Science of Mind, International Centers for Spiritual Living and United Centers for Spiritual Living. Did anybody know this besides the practitioners? Yeah, okay. And this was United Centers for Spiritual Living, and my pulpit in Monterey was International. I learned a lot about the cultures. Good that I'd done the Ukraine thing, and as some of you know, Japan in my earlier life, so I know about bridging cultures. But one of the kind of mission phrases for International Centers for Spiritual Living is awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And I love that. That has always caught something in me. And as creators, we say co-creators with God, however you want to put it, as expressions on this planet of the divine, it is that magnificence of the artist in each of us that we are here to bring to force, to bring to form, to bring to life. Now, just little reminder, because it's not just human potentially, oh yes, my thoughts create my reality, which we can just go, especially if we look at the one thing that we cannot in any way, shape, or form figure out how our thoughts created, then we go, yeah, this is really helpful. But the trend, the tendency of our thoughts, it isn't just because we're good people and we think and will ourselves into something. It is because there is this universal principle known as the law that responds to the impress of our thoughts and acts upon them. So whatever the trend of my thinking is, it is actually mathematically being delivered back to me. This is Science of Mind 101, Foundations Beyond Limits. But we forget the power of that really is true. And when I'm going along and life's kind of boring and dull and nothing's new, and I think, wait, who is thinking this life that I'm experiencing? Who is creating this life that I'm experiencing? Things come out so much when you're up here talking. I don't know, those of you who do talking in your daily lives, like so many things you go, oh, what a great idea. Had I found little paintbrushes to hand out and, have them emblazoned that I am the artist of my life, I would have done it. So just kind of close your eyes and pretend I have given you one. Sparing no expense. But there's a couple of lessons we can get from artists and how they do their art to remind us how this stuff works and how we can use it. The first one is true artists, and I know that word's kind of loaded with judgment, isn't it? True artists. It's not because I've decided who's true and who isn't. But true artists do not create their art for their family, for their friends, for what they think the market will bear. They create for themselves. They create for and from their authentic voice. So as the artists of our own life, we need to not create our lives based on what we think our family wants, our work wants, society wants. That we have to know that there is an urge in us that is our authentic, unique voice, art, creation, creativity. Secondly, and I know you've never heard this from me, you've never heard this from Kathy Ann or any of your practitioners or other ministers or other teachers. Writers, in any book on writing, they say you have to do it every day. You have to get your you-know-what in the chair and write every day. What does that sound like? Could it be daily spiritual practice? No matter what, you need to get your you-know-what in the chair and do daily spiritual practice. Now, it isn't, just like a writer knows that some days what they write is drivel. Some days what they write is not fit for anyone else to read. That's not the point. It's to keep the juices flowing. Now, I know some of you imagine that every practitioner and minister, when we sit down to do our daily spiritual practice, we have this glorious communion with God every day. We don't. Or we meditate and the whole rest of our life unfolds before us. No. Some days, yes, some days it's really good and rich, and some days it's just dry. That's not the point. Look what I saw in my spiritual practice today. That's not the point. The point is to do it to make the space available for that divine to move through us. Every day. Every day. How many of you know what it's like to do it every day and then you stop for a while and then you kind of wonder why life feels flat? Any? Yeah. Yeah. And we still forget. Third thing is that true artists, again, no matter, this isn't about their respect they get in the world, the money they get in the world, but true artists trust and respect the creative urge that is in them. They don't doubt it. And so with all of us who are kind of looking, going, well, I'm not as creative as that person, or I'm not as smart as that person, or I'm not as pretty as that person, or I'm not as buff as that person, or I'm, whatever it is, whatever the, illness of not enough is, that when we're looking around, my own dad, his biggest wisdom to me, I always say, and some of you have heard me say this, comparisons are odious, Elizabeth, that some of you know who said that. I don't know who originally said that. But we don't diss what is in us. We respect that the ideas we have, the urges we have, are true and good. And you know the difference between one that isn't. One is just your ego wanting to get paid attention to, or the part of you that wants to hide just because you don't like to be seen. But that urge you have to say maybe the one thing at work that's going to unlock some kind of stalemate, or just the thing to say to a friend who's really hurting, and you're like, I don't know what to say. And then if you just be quiet and something comes out of your mouth and that's just the right thing. Or maybe you have an idea for a new something. There's something for you. Don't disregard it or disrespect it. There's something for you to follow there. Because it is God speaking. It is the voice of the divine giving you that. And then the fourth thing that true artists know is they start with an idea. They may start with an idea or an intention, and then they let it unfold. How many of you get this great idea and then you try to micromanage it so it stays exactly the way you originally conceived it? Just me? Okay. All right, fine. Meyer. And those are the things that never work, or they work okay. When I'm like, no, this is the way I thought it was going to go, and so I'm going to make sure that it goes that way. There's flotsam and jetsam all around. But no, you have the original idea. You know what you want in it or out of it, and then you let it unfold. I've read lots of things, and probably you have, about writers talking about, especially novelists, that all of a sudden, in the middle of their writing, the characters go off and do, like, wait, what do you mean you're drowning? That wasn't what, But there's something happening in that creative process. And I don't know for sure about visual artists, but I think there's, if they're just like, okay, I've got this idea, then it's paint by numbers. I've got this idea, and this is how it's going to go. No, it evolves, it unfolds, it's unmasked. And so that, with our intentions, to own the original idea and then let it go. One of the things I love to do, and many of you do this, is create sacred covenants. Before Reverend Kathy Ann does her international trips, everyone enters into a sacred covenant or agreement for intentions for the trip. And my husband and I are doing a 3-week road trip with our 8-month-old pit bull corgi mix, Bodie. We've been on it, and all of a sudden when I was anticipating it, because he's got that, he's little, but he has the strength and heart of a pit bull. And the love, and all of you, he would make sure he got to kiss all of you, no matter how many times I got pulled out of my socket to get to you, no matter how high he had to jump to actually kiss you. And finally, thank God some things get done. Before we went on the trip, I said, sacred covenant might be a good idea to have intentions. And the big one was to travel in joy and harmony with my husband, who's driving, and me, who's in the passenger seat, sometimes trying to get in the driver's seat. I know you do that. And Bodie. And I didn't know how it was going to unfold. I know where we're going, but so many wonderful things friends have shared with us. I found out about a great dog swimming park here from Sherry Dolly. I had no idea. We took him. He's happy. He needs it. We're going today because he's going to be in the car for a long time tomorrow. So out of the original idea, the 3-week road trip with dog in the hottest summer ever in the Northwest, but I digress. I don't know how it's going to unfold. I can't control it, and because of that, new things emerge out of that original intention for joy and harmony. And it's been fabulous. It's been fabulous. So we take these ideas and we take this life and this life experience that each of us has, and this wonderful imagination, which Ernest Holmes certainly has written a lot about that. This wonderful imagination that each of us has, even if we've been told we didn't have a good one. We have it. And so we take that paintbrush that is those thoughts and those choices, and you get to make it up. You get to fill it up. There's lots of prayer support for you here if you want ideas on how to access that. But you get to create a masterpiece, and nobody gets to judge it but you. Because beauty has such an expansive definition. And so I invite you to once again take up that art brush, or those of you who've been a little phobic, know that you can paint up, you can pick up this art brush and truly create those masterpieces that are in you to do. Let's pray. And I am so grateful that I have been led to a teaching that allows me to know that there is no end to the magnificence that I can create in my life, not because of who my personality is, but because of who I am in God. And so right here, right now, regardless of what I have believed about myself and artistry, I step into it and know that there is a Liz Meranti artistry. There is a Sherry Dolly artistry. There is a Harold Costa artistry. There is, I've got my eyes closed or I can't see all of you and those of you whose names I know. There is an artistry that is you. That is each one of us, that urge waiting to be expressed again and again and again. And I know if I do not like any individual result, I pick up the brush again, knowing that Spirit is ever renewing its knowing of itself in me, as me, through me. And I open to the true meaning of freedom, which is to create this masterpiece of a life, to be that artist. I am so grateful for each of us, for the magnificence we are and create, and how we support each other in it. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Thank you, Stefan. Aren't the words to that song just gorgeous? Beautiful, beautiful. And Stefan will have CDs in the lobby, and you can talk with her more about her music. Thank you. And thank you, Reverend Liz, who's making her way out. She's going to be out the double doors in a new area we're calling Conversation Corner. So particularly if you haven't seen her for a while and you just want to catch up, that's where she'll be standing. So ways to connect with her. So let me tell you just a few things that are going on here. Now, many of them are listed on your program, so I'll just touch on a few, but it is Business Week coming up. So that means on Tuesday, it's the breakfast and the lunch meeting, and there's a workshop afterwards to work on your business. And Wednesday, there's happens to be another business workshop on creating a thriving team. So lots of ways to focus on that aspect of your life. And we've got many classes still going this summer. There's a phone class, a telephone class on Ernest Holmes, the work of Ernest Holmes. There's a class on the history of New Thought to understand more what kind of organization that we are and where did all this come from. So still many things happening in summer. And also today is the deadline to sign up for putting your art in the art show. So all of this you can learn more about at the registration desk. And as you know too, August is when our summer camp is, CBEC, our summer camp. Now, summer camp is full, but our teens are working to earn their scholarships for CBEC. So if you have a car, you know it has a tendency to get dirty, so buy a few car wash tickets from our teens to help them get their scholarships. And finally, we are bringing back connection circles. So these are wonderful ways, as Reverend Liz was talking about, where you can find people to talk to connect with more deeply. They're groups of 10 people with a facilitator, and there's an organized aspect that you go through in this circle. There is circle that will be here Wednesday nights. There's a circle on the east side, and there's also a circle on the north end. Now, I'm hearing the north end is filling, but the one here and the one on the east side has vacancies. So again, this is free. You just sign up for it at the registration desk. So many things to do this summer to keep that connection with your community strong. So I invite our ushers to come forward and join me. And I invite you to take your financial contribution to the center and hold it in your hand, or hold your hand to your heart. And let us use this sacred time again to connect inward. And breathe with me. Breathe in, breathe out. It's a lovely way to remember again how we are each connected to life. And so in this inner place, this place that we know we each have a divine spark within us that connects us to the presence, the divine presence that is behind all of the doing and the coming and goings and the forms of life. There is this place of truth within us where we connect into something larger, that larger sense of perfection, that larger sense of peace and grace and full potential, that place of creation where we make choices about our own life, about what is ours to do next. What is that thing that you were born to move through you and bring out into this world that only you can do because of who you are? So we gather in community, we gather in spiritual community to remember again, to know that again, to see that in each other and witness that in each other and bring that through more clearly, more strongly. To be together in community. And so this gorgeous, beautiful summer is a time of celebrating all that we are and all that we create together. So I simply ask you to join me in knowing the joy of this by saying together, and so it is.